ABC, Dave here. Spring is coming along pretty quickly, and we're in our roller coaster phase where it'll be cold one day and warm the next, kind of this roller coaster effect. But got new glasses, as you can see. Kind of an ordeal. I had a new prescription put in, which you have to get used to. For those of you out there that wear glasses, you know what I'm talking about. It'd been about probably 4 years since I'd had new glasses, so my prescription had changed quite a bit. So it was a little bit of an ordeal. I didn't know whether I was going to get used to these things or not because I wear bifocals, but it's coming along. I think I can see a little bit clearer with them now. So doing some spring cleaning, and at the same time doing a little bit of artwork. This is something I started here the other day. It's a small canvas, but it's for a auction sort of thing, fundraising for a gallery here in town. But here's some of my new finds that I found here recently. The library in town had a small sale, media sale. They had sold some books and various things, and I picked up some stuff down there. And here's the first one I bought. This is a jazz album by a Hugo Carvalhaes. Hugo Carvalhaes, who he plays double bass and electronics. Gabriel Pinto plays piano and synthesizer. Margot Costa plays drums, and Tim Byrne is on alto sax. This isn't necessarily a free jazz, although it may kind of enter a little bit into that. This one's kind of more, I'd say just kind of like modern jazz. Hugo Carvalhaes is a Portuguese musician, which I really didn't know anything about. And this is on the Clean Feed record label, which is kind of a fairly modern record label. And I really haven't listened to this a bunch, but from what I've heard, I've enjoyed it pretty well. This is another one. I'm going to have trouble with these names, but this is Yitzhak Yadid, Reflections Upon 6 Images, on the Between the Lines record label. Like the previous CD, I had not heard of this guy. I kind of went on Spotify and listened to a little bit of, he has several albums out, but of the several that I listened to, I kind of like this one the best. He is an Israeli musician, I believe, and he's on here. He plays piano with a Francois Huel and a Gali Hai. And there's a piano, clarinet, viola, and double bass on this album. And it kind of ranges from sort of classically inspired music to some jazz, of course, and but also, like, there's a little bit, but not a lot, of sort of Jewish influence into it as well, and makes for an interesting mix. I like these jazz artists, like these two here, that sort of mix all kind of things in their jazz music. And he really doesn't title the songs specifically, and it just kind of flows together. You can't hardly see that, but it's just first image, second image, third image, fourth image, fifth image, and sixth image on the album. So they all flow pretty well, but a rather interesting album nonetheless. Pick this up. This is Van Cliburn in Moscow, a live recording. Van Cliburn, as many of you may know, was from Fort Worth, Texas, and they still have a contest over there annually, Van Cliburn contest, where different pianists will enter, and then they'll have a repertoire that they'll play, and judges will judge them, and there'll be a winner. And I've never been to that particular contest, but yeah, pretty good. This is a live concert of Van Cliburn, and pretty good CD. This is one I found. I've got the cover out here. Picked it up. It's a compilation CD of various artists, and I wasn't familiar with a lot of them on here, which is one of the reasons I picked it up. It says music for a new age. It's not particularly new age. I would say it's more like soft jazz. And it says the GRP, which is the record label, and the WNUA 95.5 FM, which is a radio station out of Chicago. Like I said, it's on GRP Records. And there's people on here like Dave Grusin, Lee Rentoir, Special Effects, Tom Scott, Kevin Eubanks, Billy Cobham, and just like various musicians on it, which makes for a pretty breezy listen. And I do like the CD quite a bit. It's one of those CDs you can put on, and it's very upbeat. You can listen to it, particularly in the mornings. But yeah, really neat compilation. This is another one. I found this at the library for $1 and couldn't find much on it on the web. This is a Paul Motian, one of his later CDs. It's Paul Motian and the Electric Bebop Band, 71-81. And Paul Motian, of course, plays drums, and used to record on the ECM label, although this isn't on that label. And I had to go to one of the again, this is a library CD, so it didn't come with a cover or anything that you could read about. But it just says that the Electric Bebop Band is a different ensemble on this outing. And it's got the debut of Kurt Rosenwinkel. Let's see here. And there are, the other musicians are, new players are Chris Potter and Chris Creek. And what these are covers, jazz standards. They cover everything on here from Thelonious Monk to Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, Charles Mingus, and Charlie Parker. But they do it in their own unique individual style. And so, yeah, pretty good CD. This is Mama's and Papa's Greatest Hits that I picked up at the library. Has all their hit singles on it. Won't say much about that. This is a CD I found at the library for $1. It's best of Jackson Browne, who was still is a Californian singer-songwriter. Got to see Jackson Browne it's 2 CD set. Got to see Jackson Browne many years ago when I was going to school in Lubbock, and he played piano and guitar, of course, and he had David Lindley that played with him. I think Lindley played violin on a lot of the tunes. But yeah, Jackson Browne's had a lot of hit singles, and yeah, I still listen to him every once in a while. They're very accessible tunes and what have you. This is the Dropper by Medeski, Martin, and Wood. This is a kind of jazz fusion. These guys were kind of influenced by, I think, Jimmy Smith, or it's very organ based or organ based like Jimmy Smith, but also there's a little bit of funk music in it. There's all kind of influences in this, kind of like funk, jazz, maybe a little blues, a touch of psychedelia, you know. They're not quite like Soft Machine, but they kind of bring those different influences into their music and kind of make it their own. I mean, it's progressive music as well, but they don't sing on it or anything. It's just a, you know, organ-led band. Let's see who else is on here, if there's anybody else. I just got this one here the other day too. John Medsky is the keyboardist. Oh, there's Mark Ribbett on here, plays guitars. And just the other guys in the band, there's alto sax, congas, and surdo, an instrument surdo. Billy Martin also plays drums and percussion. Wood blocks, you know, there's a lot of percussion in this. There's some violin and cello. So it's a really varied CD, but mostly I would say it's like progressive jazz. I guess that'd be the best way to describe it, but yeah, pretty neat album. This is one I found at Goodwill here the other day. This is well, it says musical massage. It's for musical massage and, you know, like new age type of music. But this is David Darling, which plays the cello, and the Adagio Ensemble, which there's all sort of instruments on here. Darling plays cello, piano, 5-string, Steinberger, electric cello, and there's horn, and wind synth, nylon string guitars, percussion, and there's just 4 cuts on this album, and they all flow together really well. And yeah, this is a pretty good album. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I played this at night, and you know, it's not just for massage. I mean, like, you can listen to it and do whatever. You know, it's real easy music to listen to and do household chores, or, you know, balance the checkbook, or whatever you want to do. I picked up this DVD here. This is River and Tides. The artist on here is Andy Goldsworthy. I believe that's how you say his name. And what Andy is a earth artist, or he makes his art, as you can see here on the front cover, out of earth, out of the earth. Like, he'll do sculptures out of ice, and he'll do sculptures out of twigs that he finds in the woods where he goes scavenging, and he'll make them, you know, out of flower petals, and just whatever. But here's one that you can kind of see, one of them made out of wood. But also you have Fred Frith on here that does the soundtrack, which you may or may not know. Fred Frith was from Henry Cow and has done a lot of his own albums as well. He played with the Art Bears and a lot of other musicians, but the soundtrack that Frith does on here goes perfectly with the sound sculptures and the way this documentary is handled. So yeah, a real good documentary. I'm glad to have picked it up. Here the other day, Cuneiform Records was having a record sale, and I picked up this one right here, Radio Massacre International, Rain Falls in Gray, or they're also known as RMI. Down here, they're a synthesizer band, much like Tangerine Dream, I would say, was a big influence on them. And Cuneiform, which has put out these little, they're various artists that you can sample on their label. They occasionally will put out these compilation various artists CDs, and on their Bandcamp site you can go over there and you can pay $1 or $2 and download some of this type material. It's sort of a way to for them to get you to know some of their artists and what their artists sound like. Like I got this one here out of one of these progressive magazines right here, which I used to get. I used to be a subscriber to this. This has got an article in it by Niacin as well. But I used to be a subscriber to this because I was really into progressive rock. I still am to a degree. But they would put these compilation CDs in sometimes occasionally in these magazines. And anyway, I'll try and leave a link below. But if you'll subscribe to the Cuneiform label, they'll occasionally have little specials like they did this past weekend for this album here, which is $5. And the sale's already up. I think it ended on Sunday night. But if you're interested in taking them up on that sale, then that's a good way to do it. They also have, like I said, they have these compilation CDs. This is another one that I got out of a magazine, but you can and for those I've downloaded some. You can, I always give them like $1 or $2, at least. But you don't even have to do that if you don't want to. If you just want it for free, I think there's a way on there you can download it for free. Just click on the link, and then it'll let you download it there for free. But yeah, I think Cuneiform, for me anyway, is a really neat record label. They have a bunch of people on there like the Muffins, Birdsong of the Mesozoic, Universe Zero, Thinking Plague, Myriador, Hamster Theater. It's a mixture of things that are progressive, from progressive to rock and opposition to progressive jazz to oh golly, all kind of things, and mixtures thereof. Those bands combine all their stuff. This is another one I picked up when I was online at Bandcamp. This is Diamanda Gallus, All the Way. I know Roger Corman, his last video was talking about going to the Big Ears Festival there in Tennessee, and he mentioned Mrs. Gallus, All the Way, and that she had another album which you can also get on the same site. But she has a Bandcamp page, which I'll leave a link to as well. You can still get her albums. I think her vinyl albums were like $25. The CDs were something like $15 or something like that. Pretty much going rate. And then you could download it for $7, and I just downloaded it for $7. But very unusual musician. She's a pianist and singer. Accompanies herself in concert, and uses all these various influences in her music, anything from classical to oh golly, like blues, jazz, New Orleans. There's a New Orleans type influence, there's a gospel influence, but kind of intermixes all that stuff, makes it her own, and it's a very avant-garde. So if you're not really into avant-garde music, I'll leave a link. There's a clip on YouTube, or several of them actually, that if you want to kind of hear what she sounds like, you can sample her through YouTube. But I'll leave a link below that as well. I'll just go ahead and mention the library has also had a few books. And I picked this one up. This one was, I think, $1. This is Joe Soren's art book, and I really like art, so you know, I picked this up as well. I wish I could paint as well. He's pretty much a figurative artist, and I think this was just $1, so I was happy to get it. And picked up this one also. This is just a big book on modern art. This one was $1 too, but at least it did have a few color plates in it, which I can appreciate. But it's got sculpture and artwork in it as well. And then I picked up this other one. These are all big coffee table type books. This is Art in the 20th Century, or Art of Our Century, The Chronicle of Western Art, 1900s to the Present. But this one is like that other one and has more color plates in it. This one here was $5, but I was real happy to get it. Now, I kept going back to this book and picking it up and thumbing through it. It's really a $25 book, and I thought, I finally came to the conclusion, if I don't buy this now, I'll probably regret it. There's a Jackson Pollock on that page. And so, anyway, I was real happy to get it, particularly for that price. You can't hardly beat buying a book this size, you know, for $5. I mean, that's the price of a magazine these days, and that goes for these other books as well. So, anyway, that's what I got here recently, and just been enjoying my spring as it is, and listening to some new tunes. So hope everybody is doing well out there, and we'll talk to you later.